The way I usually start out my day is I get into the office, and within a few minutes I'm quickly jumping into the government truck and getting out to those sites before it gets too busy with visitors and funerals, and looking at those areas that will be much more difficult to get to later on in the day. So this is kind of exciting because as part of this whole contract here of the road work, they enlarged this tram stop for visitors. So we have a brand new landscape here. It's much nicer. And then there'll be a wall here for people to sit on. So that's going to be a nice addition here. So we'll go ahead and walk up here and go to some of the Kennedy graves. And this is a typical morning. Everybody's out, different contractors blowing leaves so people don't slip on them and weeding the area. One thing that we just did this fall is we removed the existing shrubs that were behind the chains here. They were all different sizes, and we were starting to lose some over there. It just didn't look good. So we put in all new plants here. Like we do in the spring for our summer annuals, we also do that in the fall. Every October, we replace those summer annuals with what we call winter annuals, and usually that means we're putting in pansies or violas. So we just did that at all the high-profile areas, meaning at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldiers, at the Welcome Center, in front of admin where families come in, at certain entrances. I'm going to be giving a tour tomorrow, and I wanted to check on a plant up here because I wanted to point it out to people. So I'm going to take a look at that real quick.
So my name is Greg Hughes. I am the urban forester here at Arlington National Cemetery. So my main focus of responsibility is really caring for all of the trees here on the cemetery grounds. And we have about 9,800 trees here over our 639 acres, so it's quite a big responsibility. One of my main responsibilities is also overseeing our tree maintenance contract. So we have a contractor that does all the physical work on the trees, all the pruning, the tree removals, tree planting, fertilizing, all of the stuff that is required to take care of our tree population. So yeah, very big responsibility, and our tree care contractors also maintain all of the woody shrubs as well. So there's that, and then we also are a memorial arboretum, and we are a certified level 3 arboretum, which means that as a certified arboretum we have a lot of criteria we need to meet in order to maintain that certification, among which is a very robust maintenance program, which I was just talking about, as well as a very good record keeping system. So all of the maintenance that is done on all of our trees is all recorded and documented in a database. So we're down here on the Memorial Mall, and we're below the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. And this is, even though it's a fairly simple landscape, it's one of our most formal landscapes because a lot of heads of state and VIP visitors often walk up these walkways and go up to the tomb of the unknown soldier to lay a wreath. And what we have here on the sides of the walkways are 2 allays of trees. There's 22 trees on each side, and they are little leaf linden trees, which are native to Europe, and they are ultimately going to be pruned into what's called an aerial hedge. So a lot of times if you think of a hedge, like a hedge along a yard or a driveway, you think of a group of shrubs that are kind of pruned very precisely to maybe sometimes make a box or kind of a formal shape. And what's actually happening here is it's what's called an aerial hedge. So it's exactly the same concept and methods, only it's trees instead of shrubs. So it's a very tall, high hedge. And so ultimately the goal is that we are going to prune all these trees into a hedge. And right now, because these trees were only planted about 4 or 5 years ago, they're still continuing to grow and thicken and flesh out and fill out. And as they do that and they start to grow together, they'll become more of a solid mass, at which point we'll really put that very flat edge on it with a beveled, angled top. So it'll be a very, very formalized hedge. Our horticulture team, myself and our turf agronomist, Gene, and a team from USACE, the Army Corps of Engineers, and their contractors, and our interment operations folks, and our engineering folks, we all met up here at this site to talk about different courses of action that the contractor could take to bring their equipment in and their vehicles in to work on this section of the sanitary sewer project. And one of the options that the contractor presented was bringing their equipment right through this corridor, and unfortunately, that would entail going directly through this landscape here. And we've got these old, really nice flowering dogwood trees right here, which really, as you can kind of tell from the video, they lend real great beauty and significance to this landscape. So as the horticulture team, this is an option that we really don't want them to pursue. And one of the things I spoke with the project manager from the Army Corps of Engineers about was he asked if he could get an appraisal of these trees, because what a lot of people don't realize, they think, well, you can cut a tree down and replace it, and it's not that big of a deal, the cost isn't that high. And that may be true for a very, very small, kind of, not terribly significant tree. But when it comes to older trees, especially like these dogwoods, and dogwoods, they don't grow to be big, large shade trees. They're not like maples and oaks. They don't grow that big. So even though these trees may not look that big, they are older and have quite a bit of significance to them. So one of the things we can do as myself as an arborist and an urban forester, and as our horticulture team, we can actually place a monetary value on these trees as a formal appraisal process. It's a landscape appraisal process, and it would be similar to something you might do for a boat or a car or a house. You can appraise it and give a value, a monetary value to it based on lots of different factors. So one of the things we look at in terms of trees is we look at the type of tree, the species of tree, its size, its condition and health, and its intrinsic value to a landscape. So these trees, being right in the very formalized landscape of the Memorial Amphitheater, have an incredibly high intrinsic value to this landscape. If these trees were just down on the edge of a wood somewhere, they wouldn't have the same kind of value, even though the trees might be exactly the same, but they're not going to have the same kind of value as they do in a very formalized landscape like this. As you can imagine, if we cut all these trees down and start hauling equipment and materials through this area, it's going to drastically affect the not only aesthetics but the value of this landscape. So I was going to do a formal appraisal on these trees and share that information with our team to just give them a sense of what we're looking at in terms of the tree's value.
Yeah, I'm Craig Gray. I'm the Installation Integrated Pest Control Coordinator. A typical workday for me is staying on top of the paperwork required with my IPM duties, pesticide applications, and reporting in that area. I also help Kelly a lot with landscape designs and plant selections. And another role, I help the Arboretum a lot with various duties in the Arboretum. One of which being managing the signage for our Arboretum trees. Various things happen with these signs. The trees will grow, which will encompass the sign, sometimes bend it, so we have to move them out. And also, squirrels will eat signs. So those signs will get removed and then replaced as needed. So if we don't do this, this tree is going to grow around this sign and eventually just encompass the whole thing until there's no longer a sign there. So this way we'll be able to read this sign for years to come.
You're never bored in this position in horticulture because we've got all these columbarium courts. As you can see, the interior to look at, the exterior, the shelters, and then the sections and all the high-profile landscapes. So there's never a shortage of things to take a look at, maybe tweak, as we say, edit, and sometimes that's the easiest thing to do is just remove something, take a look at the site, and then see what's really going to work well there. So we're constantly reevaluating, but with that said, hopefully the plants that we do pick will stay for a long time. We've chosen the right plants for the area, for the climate, for those water needs and maintenance. But sometimes with the changing climate, it is tough and we do have to change things out. Before I came to Arlington Cemetery, I worked as a gardener in DC, and then I landed this great job and it's just been wonderful. It's a great place to work, it's an honor, and I love it. I actually look forward to coming to work. I still have a lot of passion, a lot of joy for the job. I'm super excited. We've got a great group today. We've touted these as the fall color Arboretum tour. When you get that afternoon sun coming in, it's beautiful, and then the bark. It's this peely brown cinnamon kind of orangey bark. You can really see it over there. Kind of a stretch here for fall color because that bark is here year round.
I manage everything from 3 feet down to 6 inches above. I've been coming here since 1975 when I first came here with my aunt and uncle when we were visiting here in DC. My uncle was stationed over at Fort Myer and was part of the communications corps and everything. Then over the years, they still lived in DC. We would visit them. We'd always come to Arlington. He got a job as a civilian working in the Navy Annex, which is now our southern expansion area. So I've known about southern expansion since the time that he was working there because they were always talking about where Arlington was going to go next. He passed away back in the early 90s. He's buried in section 64. So they were kind of our impetus for me and my wife coming here to DC. My wife had a job at Naval Hospital, was then Walter Reed. She would bring the soldiers here that were coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan. So this place really became a special place to come to for us and our family members. Arlington, I will probably be buried here myself if I'm still eligible when that time comes. And we always said that when we left DC the last time, the only reason we would come back is for me to work at Arlington. That opportunity came up, and now I work here at Arlington, and I will retire here. So that's basically how I feel about Arlington. This is my final resting place possibly. So I'm doing everything I can to make it as nice of a place for myself and then everyone else that's going to be coming here between now and the end of time. So some contractors might say I'm a little bit hard on them, but I'm just holding them to the same standard that Arlington has for their entire grounds here. And I just absolutely love this place.